Hi, hello, I'm Sam Harrison. I read, review and discuss fantasy and science fiction books. Today, I'm talking about which Kindle that you should buy in 2024. I have every model of Kindle that is currently, the e-reader version of the Kindle. I have currently every e-reader model of Kindle. So this one is the Kindle Basic. This is the cheapest one in the line. This is I think it's like £90 on Amazon. I actually bought this second hand, as I do with most of my devices, because that is better for the environment and usually saves me a lot of money. This is the Kindle Paperwhite. So the Paperwhite is the flagship Kindle, I would say. So this is the one that most people tend to buy. This is the most recent addition to my lineup. So I used to only have the Kindle Basic and then the big boy, the Kindle Scribe. But I actually gave this Kindle to my wife, who was looking for a new Kindle because hers, the soft touch back, had gone moldy because it's a very old device, but also was not kept in the most mold damp free environment, old British houses. So I gave her the Kindle Basic and then picked up a Kindle Paperwhite. Mostly, I will not lie, because I wanted to make this video, but also I was just super curious about the Paperwhite because I'd never actually owned one. So in the past, I've owned quite a few Kindle devices. So I had the very first Kindle, the white one with the little keyboard on it. Then I had the Kindle keyboard, and I had that for many, many, many years. I think I had my Kindle keyboard for like 8 years or something. And then I bought the Kindle Voyage. And then from the Voyage, I went up to the Oasis. And then when I got the Oasis, I really, really loved my Kindle Oasis. But I decided that I wanted to try out the big Kindle, because basically my reading habits are essentially that in the evening, once my kids go to bed, at about 8 o'clock, I sit down on this sofa and I read until I get tired. Sometimes that is, an hour. And then when I start to get too tired and I'm having to reread the same passage and whatever, I will switch over and play a video game or watch a film or something like that. But most evenings I'm reading for a couple of hours, and I've been using the Kindle Scribe for the majority of my evening reading for quite a long time. But the big problem with the Kindle Scribe, of course, is you can't take it on the train with you, things like that. So when I take the train or when I travel, I was taking the Kindle Basic, and so I basically had the most expensive Kindle and the cheapest Kindle, and these were my combo. And I have to say, if you are a big binge reader, this is probably what I'd recommend. So if reading is your number one hobby, you're willing to spend the money, or you are going to look for good second-hand deals, then this is probably the combo that I would recommend. However, let's talk through all of the Kindles. Let's talk about the pros and the cons, and then we'll go through and talk about kind of everything in between, really. So first off, I'm going to talk about what might actually be my favorite Kindle in the lineup, the Kindle Basic. So this is a genuinely fantastic little device. Instead of what you have on the on the Paperwhite, which is the kind of soft touch plastic, this is quite plasticky. However, the hard touch plastic makes it feel quite durable to me. It also, which I think is a real benefit over the Paperwhite, is it has this raised lip at the edge of the screen. So I think you can kind of see here. Let me try and get the camera to focus on it. There you go. So there's a raised lip around the edge of the screen, which isn't on any other Kindle device. And that raised lip at the edge is where you obviously hold it. So you hold it like that. And I've never had an accidental swipe on the Kindle Basic. The big problem with the Kindle Paperwhite and the Basic, I would say, is that they both have their power on button on the bottom, which is very annoying because it's literally in where I hold the Kindle. So I tend to have to hold the Kindle now with where it rests. The power socket rests on my finger, and that leaves a very weird groove. So we've all got the phone groove on our little finger where we hold our phones. But now, if I've been reading for a long period of time with not the Kindle Basic anymore because I've given this one to my wife, but if I'm using the Paperwhite, then I've often got like a weird plug socket mark on my finger, so that's funny. If you are here, by the way, for a very serious, very techie review of these devices, unfortunately I'm not a tech reviewer, I'm a book reviewer, so I'm going to talk to you about them from the point of view of somebody who is a book reviewer, who's a binge reader. When I like to sit down with a Kindle, I'm probably doing one of two things. So I'm either sitting down for a long period of time, so like 2 hours, or I'm sitting down for a very short period of time. So short time reading, this is absolutely the best Kindle for that. So when I had all three at my disposal before I gave one away to my wife, so I picked up the Paperwhite knowing that I was going to give one to my wife, but she hadn't decided which one yet, and she didn't have time straight away to make the decision. So I actually had access to all three, and I was using all three for quite a while, and I ended up in like the most overprivileged method where I would have this Kindle by my bedside, on the bedside table. I have this Kindle on my desk in my home office, and I had this in the kitchen. So I basically had a Kindle in the 3 rooms I spent all my time in. When, however, that was the case, I often, when I was like, oh, I'm going to go out, I'm going to go to the coffee shop, for example. So if I was like, right, I'm going to take lunch from work and I'm going to go and read, and I would take the Kindle Basic to the coffee shop. I have taken all 3 Kindles out on little trips, but this fella, the Kindle Scribe, is really only ever getting picked up for writing tasks. So I do writing tasks on this one when I'm out and about, out of the house, but primarily the Kindle Scribe is for binge reading. So if I'm sitting down and reading for a long period of time, and I'm unlikely to take this to somewhere like a coffee shop, I'll have to be honest with you. I'm much more, even though, say I might be sitting down and having a coffee for a couple of hours, I've got some time to kill, I'm likely to want to take something like the Basic or the Paperwhite so that I can just throw it in the back pocket of my jeans. Both of these fit in the back pocket of my jeans. If you're a woman, that's unlikely. So the Basic might fit because it is very small. The one thing as well, the difference between the Basic and the Paperwhite is that the Basic is genuinely mega light. It's really, really light. It weighs so little. It's much easier to hold and read in a single hand. The one thing that I also like about the Basic and the Paperwhite is that they have the backlight now. So previously the Paperwhite and the Oasis had the backlight, and the regular Kindle didn't have a backlight. Well, they are actually front lights, but you guys know what I mean when I say backlight. And if I show you now they both are illuminated. So this is the one that's set up for my wife, which is why it's in very small font and the kind of classic Kindle font, whereas I have switched permanently on all of my reading devices to be using the Open Dyslexic font. We'll talk a little bit about that at the end, but it's quite interesting really. So if I'm going to do this now. I'm going to set up my Paperwhite to be the same font. So I'm going to change it over to the normal font. And then I'm also going to change the font size to be the same on both books here. So all of these are controlled using a touchscreen. And so my wife has this on font size 5 with no bold. And if you look here, so this is really interesting, right? So these are both the same font size, and I'm just going to increase the brightness on the backlight to be the same. So the backlight and the font size, everything are all the same on both of these. Now let's have a look. Ooh, I'll try and get them both in frame. So instantly, the one thing I would say is that the basic Kindle is a little bit brighter. The basic Kindle, because it doesn't do any of the like auto brightness or anything like that, it is easier to keep at the level of brightness that you want. The other thing that I would say is because the screen's a little bit smaller, it's actually a bit clearer. So these screens are both the same PPI. I think they're both 300 pixels per inch. But because this is a smaller device, the text is clearer because there's more pixels. It's the same amount of PPI, but because there's less inches, this feels a lot clearer. So actually, the reading experience, if you look at the two, in terms of the fonts and stuff, very, very similar. But I do think that I actually prefer reading on the Kindle Basic. And I genuinely, once my wife had picked the Basic, I was kind of tempted to sell the Paperwhite and buy myself a Kindle Basic. So if that tells you my preference between the two, although one of the big things about that is the benefits of the Basic that I see, which are the raised rim around the screen, which doesn't feel as premium as the flat panel glass on the front of this. And this is a plastic screen, not a glass screen, although you really can't tell the difference. The thing that I would say is, like I was saying, the raised edges, which make it feel less premium. This is a much less premium feeling device. It's very light. It is durable, definitely, but it feels a little more plasticky. It feels cheaper. It does feel cheaper. However, the Paperwhite has a more premium feel in many ways. Both of these now have USB-C along with the Kindle Scribe. I'm basically going to compare these two and then shift over to the Scribe at the end, because it's kind of a different device really. But let's talk these two. So I really like that on all Kindles now you can remove your ads and you can have it to show the book cover that you're reading. So my wife doesn't like that, so she has hers as the basic Kindle paper background. But for me, I always like to have the book that I'm reading. That's for multiple different reasons. One of the biggest ones is so that I can hold it up in YouTube thumbnails. But I also just really like looking at book art. One of the things that I really like about some color e-readers that I have seen are seeing book covers in color. I genuinely think that's a massive upgrade. So the Paperwhite is a more premium feeling device in many ways. So it is a bit heavier. It's definitely sturdier. It doesn't feel like shaky or creaky, which the Kindle Basic kind of does. The other thing I would say is if you look at the Basic, it might be hard to see actually in this lighting, but there are quite a lot of marks on the back of the device. So I keep the Kindle, and so does my wife. We keep them in a case, but I don't personally read on Kindles in cases. I like to hold the physical device. I like to not be holding a case, mostly because with Kindle cases, I have found that you're either getting a dirt cheap one that feels horrible, or you're getting one that is way too expensive for the price of the device that you've bought. So like, for example, the Kindle Scribe, the cases that Amazon was selling, the official ones, start at like £90 or something insane. And I'm not paying that for this. Like my phone case, and I use my phone every day, all day, and that phone case cost a lot less, and it's a lot nicer as a case than anything that I've seen that Amazon have put out. So I always hold my device when I'm reading with it. The thing that I would say is, if you look, so the Paperwhite, there's very, very little going on here in terms of damage. The back isn't really showing any damage up. This isn't as well used as the basic, and it is newer, but still you can see, if you look at the device, it's in a much better condition. So it doesn't show up, it doesn't get damaged as easily, it doesn't show that damage if it does. The big negative here is that this thing is a fingerprint magnet. So I can touch and mess around with the basic and it'll leave almost no mark. I'm showing it to I'm looking at my monitor here I'm showing you the right thing. But I'm showing this here, look, and even in the sunlight, which is the worst condition for something like fingerprints, you can't see anything. And the same with the screen, look, it's this matte plastic, absolutely fantastic. But let me talk about this bad boy. So you can see the fingerprints all around the edge where I've been holding the device. You can see fingerprints all over the back. And while I do have greasy fingers, like that is unfortunately a fact of my biology, that I do leave fingerprints on like most devices. This one is the worst for it. It also has that slightly soft touch plastic back, which is really nice to hold for a short period of time, but I find gets a little uncomfortable and a bit gross after you've been reading on it for a longer period of time. With the Paperwhite, what I have found is that this, now that the Kindle Basic has gone to my wife, the Paperwhite has become my short time reading and my reading on the train and stuff like that device. But I really don't like reading on this for long periods of time. I much prefer to pick up a different device or a physical book. So that can kind of give you a bit of an idea in terms of between the two of them. Now, there are going to be a lot of people out there who the Paperwhite will be the best option for you. So if you want something that is slightly bigger, the one thing that you can do with this is, obviously, when you have a really big font on the basic, it's turned itself on. When you have a really big font on the basic, you're not seeing many words per screen and you're changing screen all the time. And the way that e-readers work is that the battery is used when you change screen. So if you're changing screen a lot, you're going to get a lot of battery usage. With the Paperwhite, you obviously can have much larger text. So you guys saw I usually read with pretty large text on this thing. In fact, let me show you exactly how I like to read. So I will read with Open Dyslexic, and I will read with font size like 9 or 10. Yeah, 10. So this is pretty comfortable for me reading wise, and I have found that reading with A, Open Dyslexic, and B, with bigger font actually stops my head from getting a bit like, stops me from getting tired reading as quickly. So yeah, I mean, that's why I use Open Dyslexic, is because I found it much easier on the eye in terms of eye tiredness, which I do get as a glasses wearer. I feel like my eyes get tired sometimes before my brain, but Open Dyslexic means that isn't the case anymore. Anyway, so yeah, the Paperwhite is going to be a real favourite for many because you've got that slightly bigger screen. You do have the flush edge-to-edge screen, which a lot of people will really like. It is really comfortable to hold, and if your hands aren't like mine and they don't get a bit greasy, then you might really like this.
I'm at Cheddar Reservoir today to talk to you about Your Paper Quest, a bookish subscription box that is very kindly sponsoring Self-Pub September on the channel. If you've not heard of Your Paper Quest before, they are an indie book subscription service where they will send you 2 indie books every single month. Those will be on a specific genre or theme, so maybe fantasy, sci-fi, horror. You can get these boxes on an either monthly, bi-monthly or quarterly basis if you live in the US and the UK. However, you don't just get books as well. You will also get some bookish bits in the box. You'll get access to the Your Paper Quest book club, where you can chat to other subscribers about the books that you're reading, and on top of that you'll be able to ask questions of the authors of those books. The authors will also be posting a monthly interview, and if you're interested, you can get 20% off of your bookish box by subscribing with the code SAM20 to give yourself 20% off.
For my money, there are a few things that I would change if I was in charge of Amazon. So I would probably make this the exact same style of body as the Kindle Basic, but I would make the body out of metal and glass. So where you look at the scribe is all metal and glass, you see. So I would do that here with the Paperwhite. So that was what the Oasis was like. It was metal and glass, and that's what I'm kind of looking for from this. I would also add page turn buttons back. Like page turn buttons, I don't know why they got rid of them. I would much rather have a Kindle that had page turn buttons. And if you got rid of them because buttons fail and break and stuff, like give me the Kindle with the page turn buttons, and if it breaks, it breaks. Like I would rather have them and they break after 5 years or whatever than not have them. So I would like that. I would like, in an ideal world, for the power button to move. On the Kindle Voyage, the power button was on the back. So the power button was up here, and that was genuinely amazing because no one that I know holds their books to read like that. But everyone I know holds them to read like that. And that is the exact point that the power button is. And I can't tell you the amount of times that I have been reading and have accidentally pressed the power button. And in fact, in some cases, I've been like maybe a bit tired or whatever. I'm just finishing up a chapter and I have not noticed that the power button has been rested down on my hand for a while and it turns off, which is very annoying. So I really like, for my part, I would like the power button back on the back. I like the software. I think the software is the best it's ever been. It's fast, it's responsive, and much better than it has been on older Kindles where you're like, press. Oh, wait for a second. Press. You know? The keyboard is almost usable. I would still pretty much never buy a Kindle book on a Kindle. I'd always use the Amazon website on a laptop or phone browser, but the software is fantastic. The software is exactly the same across the whole range. The entire range of devices is pretty much the same, much of a muchness in terms of like page turn speed, store loading speed, library loading speed, often turning off and on. I find it to be basically the same for all three, to the point where I've never noticed a difference. And in fact, you know what we could do is we could line them all up and then we could turn them all on at the same time, and I can show you guys on screen. So here we go. So I've got all 3 devices. I'm going to press the button on all 3 at the same time. Or do you know what? I think I only got the scribe. So the scribe is incredibly quick. It's good. So in fact, here we go. That's the slowest thing it ever does, is trying to show the custom cover. So if I click to unlock it here, that's pretty much instant. And I'm going to do the same here. Instant. And the same here. Instant. I would say that, if anything, probably the basic is the slowest, but by fractions of a second. Now we've talked a lot about the basic versus the Paperwhite, and that, for many of you, is going to be the decision that you're making. So you're choosing, should I get the basic? Should I get the Paperwhite? And for most people, I would say, buy the basic. It's fantastic. It'll fit in most pockets. I think even some women's jeans back pockets it'll fit in. This actually fits in my front pocket with my phone, which is men's jeans. But I do genuinely love the basic. If someone was like, you can only ever have one Kindle, I would genuinely be tempted to just pick this one. How well it will last long term, I don't know, but I've had both of these two for over a year now, and I've had the Paperwhite for over 6 months. While the Paperwhite has seen the least amount of use, because I do have another e-reader that I use, and I tend to prefer that one than the Paperwhite. I still use the Paperwhite, not every single day, but most days. So I use the Paperwhite most days, and that's mostly because this has now become the beside the bed e-reader. So I tend to read, page or two before bed most nights. So let's talk about the Scribe. So if you want the Scribe, I have done a full review of the Scribe, which will tell you how I felt about it after having used it for 4 months. However, the Scribe in comparison, it's unwieldy. It is a big device. If you're the kind of person who has read off of an iPad before, or you like reading from hardback books, I often see this more like hardback versus paperback, kind of. So like this is the size of a paperback book, pretty much. If I look at, in fact, I have some paperbacks here, very similar in size. You know, if you think about the actual active area of the page where the text is, very, very similar in size. This is very close in size to a hardback. In fact, I have a hardback here. So if I put up this hardback, pretty much the same dimensions as the page of the Scribe. So that's, however, the big benefit here is this is a lot lighter. If you're reading massive fantasy hardbacks like I am, so I've got a copy of the first binding on the shelf over there, that is over 800 pages. The hardback is very heavy. It's twice as thick as that hardback that I just picked up. So if you think about the weight difference, this Kindle Scribe is heavy. It's not like, you don't forget that you're holding it, but the weight difference is actually surprisingly minimal. I find this almost as comfortable to hold in the hand as the Paperwhite. It is a more premium construction, which it should be because it's like £300. So the back is metal, the front is glass, and it genuinely feels lovely to hold in the hand. I do have a case for this one, but the case that I use for the Kindle Scribe is so that I can stand it up. So if I'm want to read while I'm eating a meal, or I'm rocking my baby daughter to sleep, then I will use this and a page turning remote, which I've also bought from Amazon. I've not really talked about the page turning remote on the channel too much, but it is genuinely, if you're a new dad or mum, that is a massive game changer. It has enabled me to read books at times that I absolutely would not. And because I prefer to sight read than audio, the Scribe and the page turn remote is genuinely a game changer. So big things that are the difference with the Scribes. Obviously you can write on it. So if you are the kind of person who likes to take a lot of physical handwritten notes, this thing is genuinely great for that. And the thing that I also like is that when I have taken a handwritten note, I can access that handwritten note on the Kindle app on my phone, and then I can screenshot it and send that note to somebody. So if I've, say, for example, taken notes in a meeting, I can then screenshot those notes and send them across to a friend who I have been chatting to for work. So I do use this for notes, and see if I can find a note that is appropriate that I can actually show you guys, because most of my notes on here are work related. In fact, but I do have a YouTube note. Here you go. So this is the notes for my August recap video that I filmed last week. And if you notice here, so really nice, easy to read, even with my terrible handwriting. I like to use a dotted background because I've always preferred dotted notebooks. There's loads of writing space, even if your handwriting is massive like mine, and it's genuinely a very nice and comfortable experience. So if I write hello there, you can see it's instant, the pen works straight away. There's like a millisecond of delay, but it is not to the point where you'd notice it like I have seen on some other devices. You just swipe to change page, to add new page. You can change now and add something that you couldn't before, which is change just one page in the notebook to a different type of paper. So sometimes I want to give this to my son to do some reading, to do some like playing around with the pen. And sometimes when I do that, I'll give him a plain page in another notebook, and he does really like playing around on it. Doing erasing is very simple. You literally just tap the eraser, and then you can just do, you can just erase it like it was normal pencil or something like that. One of the things that you can probably hear, you can hear the scratchiness of the screen. It feels like real paper. I've had to replace the nib on this pen because the nib does go blunt over time, but it also magnets to the side. I don't keep it magneted to the side because I use this generic case for it, which is a copy of Amazon's case. So I do keep the pen in there. But it's mostly also because I don't use the pen outside of work very much. I make a few YouTube related notes, but most of my note taking is work related. So this comes to the office with me every day, and I use it while working from home. So let's go back to a book. So I'm going to go into Soul Stealer, which is the latest book that I read. And this is the font size that I tend to use on the Scribe. So I want to have something that is large enough that I'm not having tons of page turns, small enough that I'm not having tons of page turns, sorry, but large enough that it is really easy to read on the eyes. As I was saying before, I use Open Dyslexic. I use that on both, on all my Kindle devices. I even use it on my phone when I use Kindle on the phone. I've just found it 10 times easier to read. I'm reading so much quicker, and my eyes aren't getting tired. It's just a fabulous experience. So yeah, I've read a lot of books on the Kindle Scribe now. I've owned it for over a year. If you are looking for this hardback sized Kindle experience, I do genuinely believe this is one of the best out there. It's the best one that I have tried. I really would like to try some of the alternatives, like the Books Go 10.3, I think it's called, because I do have a Books device. So this is my this is the e-reader I use the most, really, which is the Books Go Color 7, because I like the color, I like the page turn buttons. Full review for that coming in a couple of weeks' time, because I actually haven't done a review for that. But of the Kindles, this is my most used nowadays. Mostly that's because of the big screen size. It's because I can use the Kindle remote to read it while holding a baby. And it's just genuinely a really nice device to hold. I like holding, if I'm going to sit and read for a few hours, this is probably the thing I'm going to pick up, because it's the most comfortable reading experience for like binge reading, like the way I like to read. And really, all three devices in the Kindle ecosystem all fit in your life in a different way. But I find that the combination of the binge reading comfort of the Scribe and the convenience and the body of the Kindle Basic is my preferred combination. So if you came up to me and said, I've got all the money in the world and I want to buy some Kindles and I want to do lots and lots of reading, this is what I would say get. If you think that the Kindle Basic might be too small for you, so if you're the kind of person who has to get the plus-sized phone, who has big hands, who's buying the 13-inch iPad or whatever, then you might want to go out and pick up a Kindle Paperwhite. As I said, the negatives are that I do feel that the body construction, while it feels more premium, gets quite greasy, and I am worried that this will eventually, because of the softer nature of this plastic, be susceptible to damp and mold in the same way that my wife's Kindle was, where the back of her Kindle just was a bit grim and like it was just kind of not very nice to touch, you know? So that is my worry with the Paperwhite. I don't know if I will actually be keeping this Paperwhite. Now I do have another 7-inch reading device. I have the Books Go Color 7. Now I probably won't end up keeping that. Now I've managed to take the time to record this video, which I've been planning on doing for months. And I will probably keep the Kindle Scribe for much, much longer, simply because there's no other device like that in my house, in my collection of e-readers. And I genuinely really like reading on this. I've been really tempted by the Books Palmer as an alternative to the Kindle Basic. I really like Books devices because it gives you access to all of the ebook stores, so you aren't trapped with Amazon or trapped with Kobo or anything like that. And I like that the Palmer is phone size, so you can just take it anywhere you could take a phone. However, would that make me just think about my phone? I don't know. Anyway, so do you have a Kindle? Has this video helped you make up your mind in terms of how I use my devices and how you might use them? Have I sold you on the Scribe? Have I sold you on the Basic? Have I sold you away from the Paperwhite? These are all the latest versions of this as I record. Amazon could release a new Kindle tomorrow, but I think the Basic might be the most recently released, or the Scribe. The Paperwhite is the oldest in terms of when it came out. But yeah, so all three are genuinely fantastic devices, and I don't believe that you will have regret if you pick up any of them. However, for me, the order of preference is kind of Scribe. As a binge reader, the Scribe's at the top. So as someone who does sit down and read for hours at a time, the Scribe is my number one and the most interesting and the best e-reader that I have from Amazon. If I was a more casual reader and I was reading for, you know, a train journey, my bus commute, if I was reading for spots of time in between doing other things, you know, then the Basic would probably be my choice. And the Paperwhite, while it is genuinely fantastic, for me, I think that this has become the default for many people, but I do believe that basically all of the features are replicated on the Basic. So they both have front lights. The Paperwhite does have warmth on the front light, but that doesn't do anything for me personally. So when I'm reading late at night, I do want the harmful blue rays shot into my eyes because I don't want to be falling asleep. I want to be enjoying my book. So I always have the warmth turned to 0 on every device, which is possibly another reason why I prefer the Basic, because I don't need to use one of the biggest features on the Paperwhite. But I think your mileage will really vary. So yeah, let me know what you're going to buy, what you've already bought. If you love any of these devices, if you hate any of these devices, please drop down in the comments and let me know. And of course, if you'd like to see reviews, discussions, spoiler chats, and all kinds of lists and fun stuff around fantasy and science fiction books, then please do sign up and subscribe to the channel. And thank you as well to the sponsor for this month's worth of content, Your Paper Quest. If you're interested in picking up Your Paper Quest, then please use my code SAM20 at checkout, which gives you 20% off your first bookish box. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll speak to you tomorrow.